Alright, well, I wanted to touch base first on what Luban is and what its primary functions include for 3D printing. So this screen here, this is very familiar to you. This is the slicer, okay? The slicer is where you load your model, you define all your parameters as you want them. And you create the G code. After which you could load it to the G space, right? So here's the workspace, alright? So here is where Luban becomes more of just a conduit for running jobs as opposed to just slicing the product itself. So the way I like to do things personally is I still use Luban to load my G code that I've made. So I just open G code, pick one, sticks it there. What I personally do is I will connect over Wi-Fi. I can't do it right now because I'm running a job. Connect, and I just send device to Wi-Fi. Send to device via Wi-Fi. You can execute the job from Luban after you do that. And that allows you to do some control to an extent. And I personally prefer to run the job directly from the Snapmaker once I've sent it over to there. So with that said, returning to the slicer portion of this discussion, this slicer is not the only option out there for slicing the models. Yes, you'll still need this for the most part. You know, there's always exceptions if you want there to be, but for the sake of simplicity, let's just say yes, you're going to use Luban to send the file and execute the job, but the execution part and the slicing are two separate entities. And this Luban slicer, it's, you know, it's fine for a beginner. There's nothing wrong with it, but it has very limited ability to do anything. So what I recommend and what I did was I quickly graduated to Cura. Okay, so Cura, which has a steep learning curve of its own just to get it configured properly, but this is how I have it set personally. And there's a few different variables you can do, but suffice to say, Cura has significantly more settings to fiddle with. At first glance under basic, it doesn't seem so, but there's actually tiers of difficulty you can unlock. Click here, I'm going to go advanced, and suddenly I have a lot more options to play with. Okay, line width, layer height. I can specify a wall line width versus a top and bottom line width versus the infill line width. I can specify a wall count or how thick I want the wall to be. I can optimize wall printing order, which helps cut down on time. Here's a function called ironing, which we'll get into another day. Got infill density. I've got different types of infill. So these are interesting as well. Maybe I'll revisit that too. Printing temperature. We got initial layer. I've got after initial layer. I got build plate. I got initial build plate. Got speed of infill, speed of the walls, the top and bottom speed, the travel speed, the skim and brim, the skirt and brim speed. Here's your retraction settings. Here's some cooling modifications. You turn your fan on, turn your fan off, run it at half power. You got Z-hop, supports. The supports in Cura are much better than Luban. There's different types. There's the normal, which is similar to what Luban has, and then there's this trees, which maybe I'll show you. I'll slice this in a minute and kind of show you what that looks like. So I got my brim, skirt, or raft options here. There's some extra stuff here. So this is like level 2 of the slicer. But there's even more. There's expert, where now I'm getting into, I want to inset my wall a little bit because the print's a little too thick. I want to print really thin walls that normally wouldn't be printed because they're too thin to matter. I've got Z seam alignment, where I can hide. I can choose where I want the Z elevation to occur at, and then I can also try to hide that seam. Excuse me. Got flow rate, and this is where I start to really get into needing this stuff, is this flow rate. So I think you can do flow rate on lesser ones, but you can define flow rate differently for different aspects, just like you can the speeds and everything else. There's just so much here to fiddle with and play with. And the bottom line is, this is going to slice in a similar fashion to what this slice is in. However, it's going to be a lot more efficient. The time of printing is going to be cut down. The quality of print is going to increase. And the nearly infinite options that you have allow you to fine-tune your job. So if I can remember how to move up and down, I don't recall how to do it. It's hard to see a little bit, but I need to find this. How do I do this? There we go. Alright, so these are tree supports, for example. And what they do is that instead of there's pillars, they'll make like a trunk, and then little tree branches will come off to support in different areas, so that it avoids touching the print as much as possible while still providing appropriate support for it. And it's a very cool thing that actually Cura is unique on, as far as I know. But I guess what I'm saying is, what you want to do in order to take this back to use it is you would save your slice here, and then go into Luban, and then open that slice here, and you use that to print. So that's where Cura comes in. You can't really execute jobs from Cura. It's just for making that G code. There are exceptions to that. There's ways around it, but just as a general rule, that's how it works. So I hope that helps. If you need some help setting up Cura, we'd be glad to help you. But seriously, the sooner you start using it, the better. And it's going to take you a while to figure out, because there's a lot of settings. And actually, this isn't even all of them. There's more than that. And you don't necessarily have to touch all these, but it's nice to be able to if you need. There's also some kind of interesting features here. If you have a dual extruder, you can do that. You got some special modes. You can make a mold of something, so you can cast it with silicone or whatever. The spiralized outer contour, that is the same as it is here, and it's essentially known as vase mode, where it just prints the outline in one big solid line all the way around. There's some experimental features on here which I haven't tried. There's fuzzy skin, randomly jitter while printing the outer surface so it looks like it's rough and fuzzy. Draft shield to put a little wall next to your print to keep wind from blowing on it. There's so much you can do. It's really cool. But yeah, we're not gonna be using the monitor from this because this is actually for a different brand machine, but their software is just really great. There's also add-ons which I really like. So my favorite is Barbarian plugin. So if I have a part that is in inches, I can convert it to metric automatically with one button. I also have auto orientation, which will flip the part onto the easiest side it is to print. Let's see if I can find maybe an example of that in action. I don't know if I have anything offhand or not I could think of. Maybe this thing will work. No, that's probably the orientation I wanted in. I'll try one more time before I move on. Nope, that's also what I want. Never mind, I'll just skip that for now. Anyhow, I hope that helps a little bit. Sorry for the rambling. I'll try to answer some more of your questions. And like I said, I'm not an expert. You know, there's smarter people in this forum than me. This is just how I've done things. And just a quick brief one. This is what Simplify 3D looks like, by the way, which is expensive. And the settings are all through this menu instead, and it's actually pretty simple to use, and it is a very effective and powerful slicer, but it lacks some features that Cura has, most notably the tree. Well, again, I hope you got some kind of help out of this. Take care.